My name is Kyle Willis, and this is Marketing from the Roosevelt Room. All right, welcome back to Marketing from the Roosevelt Room. I am excited to continue our series on the complete entrepreneur. Today we are jumping into the toolkit of advertising, and I'm stoked to be able to welcome a guest, someone who I have been following for some time now, that I think has really been able to capture the essence and understanding of what role advertising plays in a business, as well as for both the client side facing as well as an internal side, and being able to really communicate how to do it effectively without the bro marketing tactics, without the huff and puff, without the curtain, the wizard behind the curtain. It's just the real essence of how to communicate to your audience in a way that buys. I'll give a little more intro as we talk, but first off, Bobby Stocks, I'm excited to have you with us in the Roosevelt Room today.
Awesome, excited to be here.
Bobby, I've enjoyed following you for some time, as I've learned a little bit about you, your start in marketing and advertising, and, you've built quite a empire of as a digital marketing agency, specifically on advertising, as teaching other advertisers, agency owners how to scale their business. But I always just love beginning with the origin story. I love hearing a little bit about you, where you began, how you decided to become an entrepreneur, or if that was decided for you and you stepped into that role. I'd love to kind of just hear a little bit of your beginnings. What brought you to where you are today?
Yeah. So, if I think about, I definitely was born with like the entrepreneurial bug, because if I look back, like I have all those. I know, I wish I could smoke inside the house. The wife would kill me.
That's the joy of the Roosevelt Room. I got the air going.
But I was doing little side hustles all the way back to, I think, like in elementary school, when I had the lemonade stands, the iced tea stands. I remember I built a team around the iced tea stand.
Nice.
So
okay.
I set it up, I had it going, and then I started paying the kids that were like a year younger than me to manage. and so there was definitely always, and I look at it as, for me, advertising, the way that it's always came to me is more of problem solving.
Yeah.
Or how do I get attention so that somebody can then hear, what the offer is. Because we were even doing it then, we would make little stop signs with hands, and I'd, have the kids jump out in front of the car and throw the stop sign up and then say, I remember then we started realizing that, well, we have to sell something more than iced tea to, have it more of an attractive offer. So I used to have, my dad had season tickets to the Eagles games and the Phillies games.
Yeah.
So we'd go to the baseball game, and, most of the games, they would have some sort of commemorative cup. It was like the big gold.
Yeah.
And after the games, people would just leave them there. So I would go around, and my dad would walk with me, and I'd dump out the cups, and I would take, 100 of these cups, and I'd take them home, and I'd run them through the dishwasher. So I started then selling the iced tea out of these cups.
Love it.
So people started, they wanted the cup more than necessarily the iced tea, and it would allow me to raise the price of what I was selling the iced tea. So now they get a big gulp that's a Phillies, big gulp cup. Or the best we ever did was I went to, it was a playoff game, and I got the special playoff game big gulp cup. And we collected like 200-300 of these things, And then I was able to sell those for $5 a pop.
Oh, man.
2 days to sell out of those. That was like the biggest day we ever had on my little corner street. So that was always kind of there. But up until 2012, I worked in the restaurant business.
Okay.
I started first working in the restaurant business when I was 14, went to culinary school, started to like dibble and dabble in having little side gigs. Like I would do, a wedding myself. I started setting up like little catering things, and I would use the restaurant that I worked at. I would use their, catering supplies. So, keep my costs down. I made like a deal with them, but I kind of like got to the end of my threshold for working in the restaurant business in 2012, 2011.
Okay.
Decided to like take a chance. Had no idea what I was going to do. Quit my job, which like looking back, I was like, okay, like I'm just going to believe that all this stuff's going to work out. I quit my job and lost everything with the shit. Lost everything. Was trying to like make it as a financial advisor.
Yeah.
So people call me Bobby Stocks because I used to trade a lot of penny stocks.
That's where it comes from. Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually not my last name.
I kind of guessed that, but I wonder what the background story was.
Yeah, so people just like, I was like a maniac trading penny stocks. And that's why I was like, oh, I'll make it as a financial advisor. And really like what happened was I was having trouble making that work. And I never owned a dog. I felt like for some reason, I always say like, I don't know if I was listening to some like, Western music or something about a dog. I don't know. So I went out, I get this dog, right? And I have the dog sitting right below me now. There she is.
Hey, buddy.
And I had to build a fence for her. Of course, first dog I ever gets like a crazy blue-nosed pit bull. So my like, this dog needs so much exercise. So I built a fence for the dog, and I was in a tough spot. It wasn't that difficult to build the fence, and I decided to start a fencing company. And that's really what launched me into having to really think about acquiring clients. And that was in 2012. And I started having to solve that problem and get ingenuitive with advertising then. And I quit by 2013, I was doing, all my advertising was paid advertising.
Got it.
So it started off with Craigslist, and I would do the crazy postings, where it was like every day I was just posting all this different stuff. I created a couple different companies so that I could compete against myself.
Nice.
So I had one company that was super cheap, and I had one that was more expensive.
Okay.
So, and I knew on Craigslist that I would get the same people coming through, so I try to hit them on different value propositions or jobs.
Yeah.
And we started doing really well really quickly, and then 2013 is when I first saw that I could like advertise on Facebook. And I remember my very first Facebook ad for fencing. I had no landing page. There was like nothing. It was just like, do you want fencing? There was like a picture.
Buy now.
Yeah, totally green. Ran the ad, and I had people messaging the page. And I think then like the targeting was location. Okay. And people were messaging my page, and then I'd message them back, and nobody would ever respond because little did we know it was going in the other box.
Yep, I remember that.
Story. I had somebody that wanted to acquire my fencing company that I never found their message until like the middle of 2016, and that was like all the way back from year because it was in the other box. I was like, no.
Is your offer still good 3 years later?
But that's what, like, I just started to dig deeper into marketing. I realized that how can I run an ad and get people to give me their contact information so that I could reach them? Like, it was so, day one type stuff that I was like trying to solve each problem, right? So I ran that ad, I got a bunch of responses, couldn't get a hold of anybody because I had no contact information. So I thought, how can I get their contact information? And then and that's where I then started, I was like, websites, landing pages. So I started teaching myself Optimize Press back then. Yeah. Built my first terribly ugly landing page, ran an ad, started to get, leads here and there. And it just evolved from that. So, I mean, we built that entire fencing company, not off of referrals. Like I started going like B&Is and I was like, it was at that point, because I started to get the inbounds, I would go to B&I and I would just be like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like I have leads coming in that I'm paying for that are interested, and it's like now. So we built the fencing company up rather quickly, like from having no idea what I was doing to by the time we got to 2015, I had, we had commercial space. I had 2 crews. I had salespeople. We were doing, we had jobs like literally 6 days a week, every single day. Wow. And that was all off of Facebook ads.
Wow.
And I didn't realize at that time, just like when we started talking here, that I didn't realize that was odd. It was out of the normal.
This is not,
from how most business owners grew. And it just was light years. And I still, I think the last one I got was 2 months ago. I still get leads, referral leads from those jobs. Oh, and wow. I stopped, the last fence I ever did was November of 2015.
Wow.
Every year I still get text messages because I have the same phone number from referrals. So I always say the quickest way to build a referral business is through paid traffic. That's right. Good to know. Get the leads in, do a good job, and you're going to get referrals. And that's how you can hack. Because most of the big companies that I was up against then, they'd been in business for 30 years, right? And it took that period of time of slowly building it before the big referral market kicked in for them.
Totally.
And it, paid traffic allowed me to hack that, 10 years and do it too.
So that's really interesting because, as I think I shared with you privately, it's I've had more of that reverse start in my business. I launched my marketing agency back in 2011 because I got to a point where some people were asking me, well, hey, Kyle, what's this thing about Facebook and social media, how it can work for a business? I had my start back in 2007. I was a national accounts manager for a startup social media company. My role was to onboard any business that could represent 50,000 or more people. So it opened my eyes to how a business could use social media. And this was still when, Facebook was college email only and MySpace still had some prevalence, but people were ready to jump off and do something different. And so, as I got to that point where people were asking me, well, what is the social media thing all about? I remember one of my mentors telling me he still thought it was going to be, the flash in the pan, some trend. But I had to I built my business relying predominantly on those referrals that have come in, and it's been good, but there's certainly a limit. There's a ceiling that referrals hit. When they're coming in, great, you got business going. When the referrals aren't coming in, if you don't have something like a paid advertising channel bringing those leads to you, you're sitting around twiddling your thumb. So I love to hear it, as I imagine with the amount of, when I think about where you guys are at today from starting, well, it sounds like, really starting with a fencing business in 2013 and then ending that 15, but where you are today, correct me if I'm wrong, from previous conversations, I think you were telling me about 8 figures you guys are looking at this year, revenue-wise, predominantly from paid advertising and the courses that you teach, programs that you have. That's huge. That's massive growth in 5 years. And I imagine there's some aspects that you'd say, okay, either lessons learned or what you've seen work for others and not work, that as an entrepreneur is saying, okay, do I just go put up my ad with my landing page and call that good? Where should someone begin with paid advertising? What are some of the foundational elements so they don't burn thousands of dollars in trying to figure it out, but trying to just know what's a simple place to test the waters?
Right. So, I mean, for me, like the real like two parts that worked. So I wouldn't recommend anybody go out there and dump a ton of money into paid advertising unless they are confident with sales.
Good.
Like that was basically like I could generate like I'm good with like face-to-face sales, you know, so I was able to bridge that gap in the local business, right? So, I mean, and it's certainly every market's a little bit different. And I'll talk about like if you have a marketing agency or if you're selling those type of services, especially by phone.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the kind of like what's the big fear of why people go to referral versus paid traffic. And we see it with especially like from our local part of the agency is that's always the make or break, right? It's sales. Because the temperature of a referral versus a cold traffic is vastly different.
Totally. The
second I hear a business owner say, yeah, I close 80% of the leads I get, I'm like, this guy's going to fail. You know, but for me, that was it. Like when I started my marketing agency, I started, you know, I reverted back to referral leads.
Yeah.
Because I struggled to close people on the phone that came off of a campaign.
Interesting.
And the second we started to address, like, what do we need to do to make sure these convert? Which for me was, I'm not a sales guy, so let's put a sales guy in there.
Got it.
It's really when everything started to take off. And it gave us some breathing room to then say, okay, we're converting inbound consultations at, you know, 10% or 8%. It's getting us at least, you know, where we're not necessarily losing money on month one. Now what can we start to tweak our marketing so that we can start to inch those numbers up and improve the system. For local, for me, I was able to do it right away because, you know, you're going out, you're talking to the person, you can build trust. But with that, it's just like on the other side, it's follow-up. You know, I used to close people a year after I gave them the fencing quote because I would just keep emailing them.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't respond, I'd just keep emailing, and I would have people thank me for being so persistent because they got so busy in their life and they didn't want to respond because they weren't ready to go, and they didn't want to have to get into a conversation to explain why they weren't ready to go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they had all this stuff going on for them that they didn't necessarily want to share with some stranger over an email. So, you know, I always tell people email, you know, don't stop emailing or contacting them until they tell you to get lost.
Okay.
So yeah, for me, it's like, and I would say for any marketing agency, it's really important to like look at and be honest with yourself on where you are with sales. You know, and the agencies I see that grow the fastest are always better. They can be better at sales than they actually are at marketing.
Yeah.
And that's like, you know, a double-edged sword because you see a lot of marketing agencies that don't deliver any results.
Sure.
But they're like a 7-figure marketing agency, right? And it's just because they're so good at sales.
Yeah.
So, you know, the guys that actually are really good at marketing, like I had to, you know, really get honest with myself that I needed to maybe give away more of the pie to a sales guy or, you know, sweeten that commission deal so that I could get a really good sales guy in. And once I did that, like the first year of my agency, which was 2016, it was, you know, I would have a 10K month and then I wouldn't make any money for like 90 days.
Okay.
And once we addressed the sales, like we literally went from a 5K a month, 8K a month agency to January of 2017, we did 30K and we never looked back. And it was like every month like that. Because it allowed me to get into a space where I could then just do what I liked, which was, how can I generate more leads? What can I test? What video can I shoot? Because I knew that I had salespeople that were like, feed me, feed me, feed me. And that's really where the gasoline met the small fire that had been there.
I love that. I love that aspect of, looking at advertising as a 1-2 punch. And I certainly run into this sometimes with our clients as well. Of, hey, when we're in conversation with one client, we're running paid ads for them. They came back saying, we're going to end services with you guys. And so what do you mean? Never heard any complaints with you guys before. And so, well, the quality of the leads is pretty subpar. I said, well, let's talk about that. As we dug into it, we discovered, well, you've given us all the conditions of what type of the lead you were looking for, but they're not closing. And so is the issue the lead that's coming in, and therefore we can make some adjustments to the landing page, to the questionnaire, to whatever the conditions are that qualify them before they ask for your time? Or is the process and the challenge when they get on the phone that you're not really addressing what their needs are and you don't know how to close them? And, I'll own whatever we need to own in terms of, hey, let's make sure there's some better leads. But it got to that point and I said, look, we're not, and I can only be responsible to the point that they pick up the phone and talk to you. Once they get on the phone, that's where it's on you. And I can make some great recommendations of friends who provide salespeople, who do sales coaching. That's just not what we do. And so in that aspect of, being able to have the sales component make or break the quality of any type of ad campaign, I'd love to know, in your perspectives, as we started advertising, but kind of dig into the sales aspect a little bit. First off, and I hear a lot of sales professionals say different things on this. Is it your belief that anyone could be a salesperson? Everyone is a salesperson, or is it kind of like, no, you either have that skill or you don't, and when you don't have it, you need to outsource that?
I know this is like the big, that was like the Grant Cardone and Jordan Belfort one.
Oh yeah, that was, I will not go there with you. I will not make you.
So I 100% agree with Jordan on this, because like we have our local agency, and then actually the majority of like what I work in today is our publisher program, where we have a series of partners.
Yeah.
Where we're 50-50 on. We run all their marketing, and they're all high ticket programs.
Okay.
Right? So we run the marketing, we manage the sales team, we do the copywriting, the video editing, like we have the whole team for that. And I definitely believe the best salespeople are naturals, because I've seen it time after time. You can pull people off the street, throw them in, give them all the same leads, and without a shadow of a doubt, you put 10 people on there that have never done sales before, you give them the most coldest leads, one of those guys or two of those guys are going to start closing deals.
Yeah.
And it's because they're not, whatever their personality type is, they're not afraid to confront, to ask deep questions. Like my wife is a killer salesperson.
Awesome.
She's, I've watched her close 30K cash upfront deals off of LinkedIn.
Wow.
Her personality type is she's not afraid to confront stuff. Like she's naturally inquisitive to the point where like she'll ask so many questions that it could make people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because that's how she is. It's how she operates. It's not weird to her. And I think there's a certain type of personality that makes a great salesperson.
Yeah.
And if you want to build a big company, you need to have great salespeople. It's just, so I think you can train people to become better at sales, right? I think you can train yourself to become better at sales. But I realized at the end of 2016, because was going through all the sales programs. Okay. I was listening to Grant Cardone. I was reading Spin Selling. I was Chet Holmes. I was going through all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I need to get good at sales. And the second I become a killer at sales, the world will unlock for me. And then I just came to the realization that if I want to get good at sales, I can do it on my spare time.
Yeah.
But I need to double down on my skill set, right? Like the one thing type stuff. And I need to just go find somebody who is a fish in water when it comes to sales.
Love it.
And that's been my philosophy ever since that, because I just saw the results that came from it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can write copy. I'm okay at copy. I make all types of mistakes, this, that, and the other, right? And that's why, like, I don't write the copy. It's just, it's all that. And there's a mindset shift to get there, because what I've seen a lot of people do is they get stuck in, well, when I have the money, I'm going to then be able to do that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they're still relying on themselves, not being good at all these things. And you need like quality at all those things to actually be able to get the money.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with you there. And as much as we have this series called The Complete Entrepreneur, we'll dig into it in a little bit of some practical elements of this. But I'm a firm believer that not one person is going to be a rock star at sales, advertising, mindset, copywriting, health and fitness, whatever the tactics. And we have a series multiple different toolkits that we're talking about as the entrepreneur. And I have a firm belief that there's going to be some that you're a rock star at, and some that you need to outsource to other rock stars to help equip you and build you. Even if it's not so much I'm going to build a whole team around me, what are the ones that I need in order to take my business from A to B? And those are the ones that I need to hire out first. And I think it's
the bottlenecks. Where's your bottlenecks, right?
Yeah.
Just address those initial ones, just like you're saying, and that's how you do it, piecemeal.
Exactly. And it's that unfortunate challenge I've seen with so many entrepreneurs is that fear of spending money to hire a professional who can do it really well, that they'll step over dollars to save pennies. Yep. And that reality of, look, man, if you just hired this out, yeah, it's going to cost you $5,000 a month. But that $5,000 is going to turn into 15, 20, whatever it might be, because someone has already spent all that time and money learning the skill set that you don't have, that you're not going to be able to develop in the time you need in order to scale your business.
Yeah.
So that's where, I love it.
The first sales guy I hired, I was like, I can't afford somebody full time. And I only had about $5,000 cash. Burned through my credit. So it wasn't like I could lean on credit cards anymore. And I just basically was like, okay, I knew a guy who was selling cars, who was really good selling cars. And I said, hey, for 20% reoccurring commission lifetime, are you open to taking calls at night and during the weekend? And he was like, hell yeah. And that was it.
Love it. That's awesome.
And I just, let's just start filling it in from there.
That's awesome. I love it. So let me kind of just dig a little bit practical. I want to come back to this in a moment, because I think this is where I love to land our ship here, or land our plane here, and be able to have some practical calls to action at the end. But digging a little bit into this advertising element, you've seen the game change a lot. You've seen the platforms change. You've seen incredible success in a variety of different ways with different industries. But for someone who's either just starting, or who's either been burned from advertising before that they've done themselves, or hire someone who didn't do it well before, I'd love the insights that you have of just what you see working today, either from platforms or tactics within the platforms, that you may be able to say, hey, this is a good place to begin. If there's certain, this is also where I welcome, if there's, I know you have some programs and courses that you guys offer for some of those foundational elements. What have you seen work, and how can someone build on what is working?
Yeah, there's a couple different things. I would say, like, what's given me success from the get-go, and I don't think it's ever going to change, at least not in the way our society looks today, is video. So I built the fencing company. What allowed my advertising to stand out was video. So selfie sticks came out, and I used to just do selfie sticks.
Got it.
Selfie stick on the job, showing what we were doing. And, obviously there's a lot of psychology that you can dig into around why video works to, put you as an authority. But if you're not good at copywriting, video is a hack for that, right?
Cool.
Because everybody's, you know, some of the best copywriters I've talked to said when they write the best copy, they just talk into their phone like they're pitching their friend and get it transcribed. There's Google Docs has a little feature that a lot of people don't realize is that you can turn on your microphone and talk, and Google Docs will transcribe it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's, you know, the best copy is conversational, right? So, but for me, video is always been a hack. I love video, you know, selfie videos. Now we do a lot of higher end production type videos, but no matter what business you're in, especially if you're more local and not in uber competitive, you know, marketing education space, video is just, it's almost like it's a 99.9% success rate.
Wow.
Because very few people are doing it.
Yeah.
People are afraid to get on camera. They overcomplicate it. They think that they need to be, you know, smooth. It's just like when you hear your own voice. It's like everybody's like, I sound terrible, right? It's like your own perception that you're casting on, you know, how it's going to be perceived. But I mean, I would show up to people's houses and they would be like, oh, it's the video guy. And they were like excited to see me. And I'm like, okay. And it did a lot of the selling for me. And it wasn't complex. But, you know, to piggyback off of that, we're moving a lot of our stuff from local to, you know, B2B to high ticket into YouTube.
Okay.
YouTube right now is crushing it. The cost isn't as much. The quality, the intent of the leads are better.
Wow.
Not only because YouTube has really become such a search engine, you know, everybody is searching, how can I, you know, fix this or how can I do that? We have a buddy of ours, Nicholas Ayers, who has built 2 different insurance agencies solely off the back of YouTube.
Wow.
And I've seen him coach people into generating roofing leads, Medicare leads, annuity leads, like you name it.
Yeah.
It's coming off of YouTube, not only because of, and people always say, well, why would those people be searching YouTube, right? But it's because, and I know we understand this, but a lot of people don't, that YouTube and Google search is the same platform, just like Instagram and Facebook is the same platform. So, you know, you're getting that similar lookalike type audiences from the Google search, and then they're getting hit on YouTube, you know. So it's like kind of that bridge between, you know, pure interruption marketing over on Facebook and search traffic. So, and you're getting those cheap cost per clicks, you're getting those cheap leads and booked appointments. So, I mean, that's really like YouTube, video, and driving long form leads on that. You know, I'm even, one guy I saw was getting 96-cent long form mortgage real estate leads in Florida off of YouTube.
Oh, man, I think every real estate and mortgage broker is raising their hand right now saying, how the hell did I get that?
And that's what, those were like the numbers that we were getting back in like 2015, 2016 in mortgage on Facebook.
Wow.
Which is where I really like made my name back in 2016 was, you know, it started off in the construction space, but then, you know, we were just murdering it, getting real estate leads, long form real estate leads off Facebook.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So let me ask kind of the similar question from the opposite side then. As you've seen, YouTube grow in success and the ripe opportunity within that platform, where would you caution entrepreneurs who are wanting to get started with advertising? Is there any areas of caution either within a platform or a style of advertising that you say, this style doesn't work anymore? The style, the efficiency of that type of advertising, that type of platform is not as effective. And this may be an industry by industry situation. I get that.
Yeah. I think it would be industry by industry, but I think there's some broad strokes stuff, right? Whether you're going to be doing, I would say anything outside of, you know, hyper-local SEO, where your leads are literally calling you, I think it's really key and important to go into paid advertising first by looking at what are you going to do with the lead when it comes in.
Good.
Right? And this is, my third business is a software company that we've built. We have, I think, like close to 2,000 users, and it's a software that's, organic looking emails, texts, voicemails. It's got auto dialers in it, Facebook messaging. It's the 5-channel follow-up system.
Love it.
Everything is possible to help whatever business you're in to make sure that you're capitalizing on every single lead. You're hitting them on multiple channels, right? Because in today's world, it's like that weird time frame when humans lived with like some dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Is that some people respond to voicemails and then other people are weirded out by somebody leaving a voicemail.
Sure.
Some people still like using email and other people never check their email box, and then other people only want to text, right? Some people still pick up their phone if you call them. Some people only like Facebook Messenger. So, taking those different personas into account, realizing that in order to really make lead gen successful, it's always going to be about your contact ratio. How many of those people you're actually getting on the phone?
Yeah.
What's your long-term follow-up look like? If you come into lead generation like that, I think that it's possible to make every platform work. Now, obviously, if you can come into it thinking, how can I make every platform work? Then you're going to crush it, right? Because some platforms are really, really going to work and other ones, are going to be profitable for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like a broad stroke for any marketing campaign, whether you're in high ticket, HVAC, it doesn't matter. How can we set ourselves up so that it's almost impossible to lose? And that's always going to be it's really going to be about your follow-up, for the leads that do come in.
And that sounds like an incredible tool for the importance of follow-up. I love that aspect of having that plan when I start my campaign, whatever the platform might be. How am I going to follow up, leverage the lead I get? It's one thing to be like, hey, I got 20 leads this week. Isn't that great? But if I don't have that follow-up plan, how many of those leads are going to fall by the wayside? Tell me a little bit about this program that you just created, or when you did create it. Tell me a little about it, because it sounds very practical and beneficial for a business owner to really leverage the most value out of the leads they get from an ad.
Yeah, so it's called Contact Smarter. I have two other partners in it. And essentially, it's an all-in-one system, right? So what we've found works for especially local lead gen is long-form leads, right? Which just means anything more than name, email, phone number.
Yeah.
And the reason why we like that is because inside of survey forms, right, a long-form questionnaire, you can really have like a sales question. So say if it's a roofing client, what area are you in? How old is your roof? What type of roof do you have? Did you recently have storm damage? Are you looking for financing? All those different questions. All the questions help the stickiness of the action that they're taking inside their brain, meaning that when you do reach out to them, they are more likely to remember that they filled this out, right? So it increases that fact. So what our system does is you can build those forms inside the system. You can build your messenger bots inside the system, and anybody doesn't know that, right? It's like, because a messenger bot's the same thing as a survey form. It's a conversation that we're having, and I'm asking you certain questions based off of however you answered the previous question that I asked. So this system allows you to build one survey form, and you can toggle it on and off to make it a messenger bot or a survey form. And then from there, what it does is it gives you a link. You can run that in your ad. From there, it fires. You can tell Facebook where to fire your conversion tracking. Okay. So if you want to optimize for people, let's say that only want a $400,000 home up or more, you can fire different pixels in different areas of it so that From there, it moves it directly into the follow-up sequence.
Okay.
The follow-up sequence is email, it's text message, it's voicemail drop, and if they went through Messenger, it's chat, right? So now you can follow up with them on every single one of those things.
Yeah.
So somebody might get an email that says, hey, just saw you went through your survey. That's great. I'm going to send you a text message. Look out for that. Bang, 5 minutes later, they get a text message. Hey, sent you a text message. I also sent you a voicemail, or I called you, left a voicemail, right? And then follow up on that. And the system tracks the response.
Awesome.
And then from there, inside the response, we have it set up for sales teams. So you can round robin all of that. You can track your sales team and see, well, John on average is taking 40 hours to respond versus Susan, who's responding to her leads on average in 3 hours, right? And then you can start to look and address that. We've also built in call booking because we know, again, it's almost like somebody checking out at a register. You have all that stuff there where it's like the cash grab stuff, like kitschy things that they buy.
Yeah.
Hey, she's chewing on a bit.
I thought you heard my dogs. I got my dogs right outside my door, and
all that crazy stuff where she's like, but we also integrate a call booking calendar in it. So when somebody comes through, they go through the lead, they hit a page, and then it says, great, let's book a call, right? And it's also integrated with the follow-up so that, you have multi-channel reminders going out.
Wow, that's awesome.
The name of the game, right, we all know, is how can we get more leads to show up on a call so that we can actually talk to them.
Yeah.
So that's the overview of what the system looks like. We've tried to read everything down so that people don't have to have all these different things, and they have Zapier and this Frankenstein system. It's one system. You can build your survey forms in there. You can have your follow-up sequences in there. You can have your call booking applications in there. It has auto dialers. You can go in and just press, and it starts automatically dialing in your leads. It has call forwarding. It has whisper messages. It's basically like, let's wrap it all up into this one thing that makes lead generation as profitable.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so that's contactsmarter.com?
Yep.
Awesome. That sounds like an incredible tool. 'Cause I'm thinking right now with my own business, my own clients, that issue, thinking of that client I had a couple of years ago saying the lead quality sucks. Well, how did you follow up with that? And we could see, where they made the call, where they didn't make the call. But if they had equipped them with a platform like this, how much more effective the leads would have been when it's properly.
Yeah, and this is our second iteration. We first built a system much like Lesser Bones, which is email, text, voicemail, back in the end of 2017, because we were just like looking at our clients. We're like, I see this is like the number one thing, especially for a marketing agency, is the stance that every marketing agency should come from is, what do I need to do to get my client as close to the sale as possible?
I like that.
And I see a lot of people in the market that are struggling because they're saying, how can I generate a lead for somebody? Yeah. And in today's market, nobody wants leads. Nobody cares about leads. It's way too competitive to only come from that angle. You need to come from, how can I develop a system that gets my client as close as possible to the sale? Because look, if you develop a system that gets somebody as close as possible to the sale, gives you a lot of leverage, and you might just want to go into that business yourself. You know what I mean? So you might as well do it. It's the best for everybody. And that's where we've been developing and iterating a system since then. We relaunched this Contact Smarter in December of 2018. And this system's really taken off. We're looking for an 8-figure exit on this one.
Love it.
Adding video in, we're really trying to push the edges on this one, and it's doing really well.
That's awesome, man. check that out. I think that'll be a great tool for the entrepreneur to be able to leverage the most out of their advertising and their sales.
Yeah. And another cool little feature we built on it, it's just like ClickFunnels, it's shareable.
Okay.
So you can build out entire funnels and then share it with somebody else. From the surveys to the whole thing. Yeah. It's great.
Nice. That's huge. Yeah, because there's those pre-built templates that I can just rip and replace from one client to the next, from one, other buddies. Yeah. The only thing I've enjoyed about ClickFunnels is, hey, I built a great funnel. Share that with me. You got it, man.
Yeah, when we put like ridiculous affiliate fees on it, like you get 50% for life affiliate commissions.
Wow.
So we're already seeing the community building funnels, sharing them, creating content, and then getting 50% affiliate commissions off of that.
That's huge. Well, Bobby, I think this has been really insightful for me, hopefully for our listeners, as they are really understanding the role advertising plays in the entrepreneur. What I'd love to just wrap up, kind of end with, is as we talked a little bit about it earlier, this aspect that not one entrepreneur cannot be excellent at all these skills by themselves. And knowing when is the right time to look beyond themselves and hire out either an agency, an individual, to really equip and serve their advertising needs. As an agency, I'd love to hear from you. When do you think is that right time that someone should be calling you up and say, Bobby, I think I need your help?
I think like right back to what I was harping on before, like if you're a business or, if I was in the open market of taking on consultants or people who had courses that wanted to grow.
Sure.
Because right now we only take equity partners. But if I was taking on those agency clients, which I used to do,
yeah,
it's always where you feel like it's time that you have a product that is consistent and you're ready to scale. You feel like you have some semblance of a sales process down. Because again, at the end of the day, you could get lucky. And that's what I see a lot of people trying to do, like get lucky with a market. Let me find this untapped market where they're not hearing from anybody and the leads are going to be cheap and they've never really been pitched too much. So it doesn't matter how bad I am. I'm going into some sales, right? That's not really a strategy that you want to risk everything on.
Yeah.
It's always, again, it just always makes sense. Like, okay, how do we plan on selling these people? How can we do it so that we can be profitable, as soon as possible, and not always like, another thing is like realizing that when it comes to paid acquisition, it's about getting the people in so that you can do a good job and then start to build those referrals.
Yeah.
So if you're not making money in the front end, that's fine, as long as you know that you have a product that's going to work so that then you can start to make money and get referrals. That's another big thing I think with most local businesses is, I hear them say, well, I'm used to getting like 10x or 20x or 30x ROI, because in their mind, they're like, I pay B&I $800 a month, and this year I made $100,000. And it's like, yeah, that may be true, but it also took you an entire year to do that. Yeah. You had to drive and get up at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you miss, you're getting kicked out. Like there's all this stuff, this opportunity loss that people don't take into account. I'd rather all day long be able to put $1 in and get $2 out all day long than have to go through a long cycle that uses all my time for me to get a 10 times return. Because if I can automate that sale, I can start making more money on the back end, right? And, I've over the years, I've teamed up with, and I've met a lot of guys that have sold their businesses for up to 9 figures and beyond.
No.
They will all say the exact same thing. Your business is not worth anything. It doesn't matter how much organic business you have coming in. Yeah. Somebody is not going to buy that. The only thing that investors buy is, do you have a system to generate clients and make sales that is automated? Like, it's the old Dan Kennedy, like, you don't have a business unless you can buy business.
Yeah. I love that. That's really, really helpful. So, man, let me ask just one last question on this, because I think you have seen where especially in the last probably 3 years, the market pop up a lot of these new agencies, one-man agencies, one-woman agencies, some that are excellent and crushing it, some that took a course and now call themselves a guru. What can an entrepreneur ask to know, when they're trying to vet, saying, hey, I know I need to hire help. I know this is the skill set I'm not going to own myself. How can you separate the wheat from the chaff? What is a good question for an entrepreneur to ask when they're evaluating an agency or another advertising individual to say this is the right person I should have join my team?
Yeah, I would say if you're buying unicorn results that the sales guy is selling you, you're probably making the wrong decision.
I like that.
And then that's the part. It's like when somebody's thinking about hiring an agency, they're usually sometimes in a little bit of a rough spot, right? If everything was going well, they might not necessarily be thinking that, sure. Right? Because they're still going to make that paradigm shift from organically I'm getting a bunch of business and there's high margins, right? I don't think a lot of people jump from I'm getting a lot of business, I have high margins, let's take this risk on spending a bunch of money on getting more business that I have to pay for that's going to be lower margins, right? So usually the paradigm shift is like what you said, they're getting the ups and downs of the organic business, right? So they're in a down and they're like, I can't do this anymore. And it's a risk. And I think that's why so many business owners, they talk to one agency that's saying, look, we're going to be shooting for $1 in, $2 out, and over time it's going to increase as we dial your systems in. Then they get on the phone with another guy who's a fast talker who's saying, oh yeah, I got guys, you're going to get 10X, you're going to fly that, I guarantee it, we're going to guarantee it, this, that, and the other. They buy in, they get burned, they never hear from the guy again, and that's it, right? Yeah. So you should go in, I would much rather, and I know for myself, I'd much rather buy a service provider that's really setting decent expectations up front and is pushing me to think realistic.
I like that. I love that. Well, man,
because those are the agency owners that have actually scaled people. They have account managers, there's systems in place. Like they know that it's a process. It's not an overnight, miracle drug.
Amen to that. And I think that's a great way to distinguish the reality of who knows what they're doing from the charlatans.
Yep.
And it's the unfortunate reality of kind of where we are today. Is so much talk that you have to, I've talked to so many different businesses who get on the phone with me and like, yeah, SEO doesn't work for me. Retargeting doesn't work for me. Right. Well, it may not have worked with the last person, but that's why you're talking to me. And as we're called no to the quo, we're here to change that status quo expectation of what you've come to know. But man, I think you've given us a lot to think on, act on in terms of, first off, understanding the role advertising plays in the marketing mix for the entrepreneur. And then the importance of being able to have the sales component to accompany what advertising does. I love what you've created with Context Smarter. I'm going to check that out myself. It sounds like an incredible tool. Is there any other way that you would like people to learn more about you and the services you guys offer, or anything else that you'd love for our audience to know? Who is Bobby Stocks and how I can stay connected to this great guy?
Yeah, we, I'm old school, so I'm just on Facebook.
Yeah.
Getting old now.
Yeah, Facebook is now the way we define old.
So you can find me on Facebook, Bobby Stocks. We also have a little Facebook group that we've been starting to do a lot of cool things in called Advertising Hustle. And I just have, I have my team in there. So we have our main copywriter, our email copywriter, my full-time video guy. We're going to have one of our sales guys in there. So we just bring in a lot of other experts.
Yeah.
And, they just kind of give tips and tricks on how they think about, how they're writing copy or how they're writing emails. And it gives a much better sense. I know a lot of kind of the resources out there. It's always like one guru. not to rag on Kevin David. I don't know if you've ever seen his stuff. It's like XYZ Ninja, but it takes a team of experts, right? There's no way anybody can be that good at anything. And those individual people are the ones that have those little golden nuggets, right? Because it's always like the deep context is what can make a big shift in how you operate in different areas of your business. Yeah.
That's huge, man. And I'll make sure to link to Advertising Hustle in our show notes, as well as Contact Smarter. So our listeners who are driving in the car right now and haven't been able to write that name down, if you go to mfrrpodcast.com, we'll link to both Contact Smarter and Advertising Hustle so you can find those quickly. Bobby, I think you've given us a lot to think on and act on today in understanding what advertising is and the role it plays in the toolkit of the complete entrepreneur. Man, thank you so much for your time and the value you brought with us. Absolutely helpful for us today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Hey, I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode of Marketing from the Roosevelt Room. If you heard something today that you would like to follow up on and be able to connect with us, connect with our guest, we will have their contact information as well as any links to resources they talked about from Facebook groups, their website, any type of offers that they gave on our website at mfrrpodcast.com. Once again, that is mfrrpodcast.com. Join us there. I'd love to keep the conversation going, and you'll be able to get all of our show notes as well as links that the guests spoke about, so that way we can really serve you. Really do appreciate you spending time with us today in this episode. Hope you have a great rest of your day.